God, remove the desire for alcohol from my life.
There's always the blessing on the backside of it. You just can't see it until you're already through it.
That if you're in a drift, if you're in a tough place, if things are difficult right now, it's okay. God's beside you. He's with you. He's never left you, nor will he ever forsake you.
There's healing that happens when we can look back and laugh at seasons of our lives, and we can find humor in the pain.
What are people going to think if I turn in my Hummer? What are people going to think if I turn in my BMW? What are people going to think when they hear that this business failed? When I shut that off and said, hey, I don't care what my path to success looks like. I'm just going to move forward and do this.
Money doesn't get you everything. Money in the bank, but what does that do? You know, you can't take it with you.
The choice was to not care what my path to success looked like to anybody else. It really is a guide and a reference for you to come back to work through different phases of life that you're going through.
All right, well, welcome back to another episode of Crazy Unbelievable Faith. I am your co-host, Brian Owen, alongside my wife, Kersha.
Hi.
And we have a special guest. You doing good?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm doing good.
We are super excited for you guys, for our listeners, for our viewers, if you've tuned in this week. If you are not already actively subscribing.
He's about to jump out of his seat, guys.
If you're not actively subscribed and following, like, you're going to miss these things. So that's amazing. We're so blessed. We're so fortunate to have Chris Robinson on our call. Chris, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing outstanding and excited to be with you both. Thank you so much for having me today.
That's awesome. And how is the weather in Florida?
Well, I mean, it's hot, but it's hot everywhere. And so this is the season I'd rather deal with versus having to deal with winter, for 6 months. And so I think I made the right choice overall moving this way.
Do you have a guest house? Because I would love to come join the Florida, those 6 months of
Yes.
winter.
It is like the heat and humidity has come into the Midwest, and I am like, okay, this needs to go away. And I know we deal with it every year, but it's fine. So
Every year he says, why do we live here?
exactly.
That's
And
what
we're
I
still
said
here.
until I didn't. That's what I said every year until I didn't. I just said to my wife, this is a bad life choice. Like, this is a choice that we're making. Just
Yeah.
Talk
trying to
about a
live
life experiment. Live in the
Right.
Midwest.
right.
Well,
It is
Chris,
great.
I
love
appreciate you.
it.
I appreciate you carving out the time to jump on with Kirsten and I. You have some awesome news of what you're working on with your book and things like that. We'll kind of tap into that today, because I definitely feel like that is something that can spark and benefit our community of listeners and
Yes.
viewers. Just as you talk about different pieces. And so kind of want to unpack a few questions with you right here at the beginning. If you don't mind, Kira, I'll let you kind of kick off with it.
So Chris, can you share a time when God asked you to do something that felt completely crazy or impossible, but you did it anyway?
Ooh,
And if
wow.
so, what happened?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I've got a series of those. I think I'm living one of those out right now with writing this book and trying to hit the New York Times bestseller list because, I really didn't in my heart have the desire to come out and just write a book. And so this book was, I believe, God given to me in the framework of which I got the framework in a matter of seconds sitting on a bench waiting on an Uber to pick me up, and went in, pitched it, and they're like, that's it, that works. And so I would do that. But I would say another time where I really think that happened was when I had just come out of two failed businesses. I just came out of two failed businesses. I had did really well in my 20s and thought that I had the golden touch. Because I didn't see anything, I hadn't experienced any loss. At the age of 21, I was making $100,000+ as a sales rep on the phone, promoted to sales management, and just kept climbing all the way through my 20s. I would go out to start my own business. It failed, number one. Second business failed, number two. And then I'm going, what do I need to do next? And I remember sitting, at this point questioning, what am I doing in my life? And it was on one of those long drives, or it was really a short drive because I wasn't that far away from my house. And this is where I was contemplating having to give up my stuff that I had earned in my 20s. and I was contemplating giving up my house because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to continue to afford to pay for it. Giving up my cars at the time, a BMW, a Hummer, and I'm driving in this Hummer that day, and I mean, I'm just crying. I mean, just, God, why? And I remember pulling up to this black F-150 truck, and on there, on the driver's side window, right at the bottom there, there was a silver seal, and it was a fireman seal. And in that moment, now being a fireman is not normal by any stretch of the imagination, but in my head at that moment, that symbolized normalcy for me. And so kids grow up wanting to be a fireman, a police officer, a lawyer, a doctor. Like that fit a box, at least. And so here I am in the car just crying. I've got these two failed businesses and I'm not really thinking about going to go do a job. And I'm going, God, why can't I just take a normal job? And what I believe the most audible voice that I heard God say is because I didn't put that inside of you. And in that moment, I mean, I just had like this lightness, this peace that just came. And I said, okay, I'm going to continue to stay out here and do this. I'm going to continue to stay out and pursue as an entrepreneur. I could go back in. I could have went back into the industry that I came from and just, went back to sales management and held on to all the stuff. But if I had held on to what I had built in my 20s, that would have become my pinnacle when God meant it to be my stepping stone. And so that was definitely a time where I feel like this was crazy because all logic says, hey, just go get a job and save your stuff. But I continued
Right.
to pursue towards this dream and calling that I had on the inside to add value to people.
Wow. Um, there's a lot just in that right there. But you talked about your success and the stepping stones.
Yeah.
I know you talk about that in your book, and thank you. We were blessed to be able to read an early manuscript of that. It is a phenomenal read, from Drift to Drive. It's just a phenomenal book. But the success, it's not about the complacency piece you talked about.
Right.
And it's honestly, it's that success that happens, and then it's like, okay, I'm just kind of comfortable.
Right. Yeah.
And I think, you talk about early on career, like I think this saying comes to my mind. We've heard it many times, but my butt's a cream puff and everybody wants a bite of it.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, you think you're so successful.
Right.
I don't know where that came from
Did
earlier,
you
but when you were
just say
talking,
that?
but there's people that get that ego
Right.
and that swagger can
Yeah.
totally derail them in life.
True.
Where they think, hey, I've arrived.
Right.
And it's not I've arrived, it's that stepping stone to the
Right.
next piece.
Correct.
Well, and I think too, this is something that God has walked us through, is He's stripping everything away from us.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
comfort,
Yep.
our any place that we maybe had some complacency in. He has worked over the last 5 years to really strip this down. And I think it's such a testament, especially to viewers and listeners, that we all feel this
Right.
when we're following God.
Right.
And, I've talked about before, that you can be a Christian or you could be a Christ follower. And when you become a Christ follower, that stripping away is something I think that we need to go through to be refined, to then grow into the image that He had for us.
Right. Yeah.
Rather than an earned image that
Right.
we built for ourselves.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's correct. Well, I think too, though, but that was one of the choices that I made inside that car was that was the biggest choice. If I had to say, hey, there was a choice that happened inside that car that day, the choice was to not care what my path to success looked like to anybody else. Because what would have held me back from moving towards it is think about this. I had to move back into a house that my parents owned. I had to drive a car that my parents owned, that was at the house that they owned. And so fortunate me that my parents, and again, my parents aren't wealthy and, they've worked for General Motors their whole life and, they were working in Kansas City, but they still owned a house in St. Louis and it just happened to be in that window where that could work out. But if I had held on to the, well, what are people going to think if I turn in my Hummer? What are people going to think if I turn in my BMW? What are people going to think when they hear that this business failed? When I shut that off and said, hey, I don't care what my path to success looks like. I'm just going to move forward and do this. That was probably one of the biggest decisions that I made in that stripping away time, and that wasn't the first time I was stripped. So, so if you think you've been stripped by God, and you think, "Hey, I've been stripped once," hey, it can happen over and over again.
Yeah.
You have countless stories peppered throughout that book, attesting to those. And Kirsch and I'm thinking specifically as you're describing this, that's a status piece.
Yeah,
And I think status, to us, we've learned, status means that you're still too arrogant to understand success.
oh, come on, somebody.
So, I mean, like, come on. I got all kinds of sayings I'll just throw out here. But again, these are things, I don't think these things up. I just beg, borrow, and steal them from people. And I listen, I'm that sponge, and when status comes into play, like to us, we grappled with that because, Pinnacle Awards, success in sales career. I went from teaching, owning a landscape company, and was very successful there. Well, money doesn't get you everything.
No.
I unfortunately lost my sister, and it's like here I'm looking at money in the bank, but what does that do?
Right.
You can't take it with you. And it was like that was my kind of like, okay, I have to change something.
Right.
But there's a lot of us that worry about what's that image on the outside. And we gave up things, we sold things, and from the outside, people are like, gosh, you guys are going backwards.
Right.
Well, from the outside perspective, it looked like we were going backwards.
Right.
But we knew in our heart, in our mission as a family, as a couple, we knew where we were going, and you just have to put those blinders on. It's
Right.
a lot easier said than done.
Yes,
I will.
it is.
So in our 20s, we had a boat.
Right.
And we sold the boat
Yep.
and got rid of the Tahoe
Right.
that was only to haul the boat back and forth,
Right.
so that I could come home.
Right.
And my family, they just thought we were totally nuts.
Wow.
And, then we got debt free. And then it was like, oh,
Yeah. Oh, you're so
What's that look
lucky.
like?
You're
Right,
so
you're so lucky,
lucky.
right.
It's like, man, you didn't see the last 10 years, people.
right.
Ramen noodles and mac and cheese and hot dogs and Tostino's pizzas. No offense to those that are watching that love that. I love it
Right.
too.
Hey,
but,
I promise you, I do not eat the ramen.
Or
And so-
Twizzlers.
I do
Or
not eat
Twizzlers.
the ramen. And a funny story about ramen is that when the house was going into foreclosure, and this is why I do not eat ramen to this day, is that I remember thinking, okay, I'm getting ready to lose this stuff. And so I went to a defensive scarcity mindset, and I said, okay, well, jokingly, I said, okay, well, we'll just strip down and we'll just eat the bare, raw, basic stuff, and we're going to go to this store and we're going to get some ramen. And I was eating the ramen, and what I realized was that it's not the ramen, okay? It's the mindset that was attached to the ramen that helped me drift into that direction where I thought that I was going. So still to this day, I don't eat ramen. I won't eat it because to me it symbolizes a mindset
Yep.
that took me in a direction that I didn't want to go. Now my kids love it. When I told that story one time, one of my good friends, he sends this gigantic like lifetime supply of ramen to the house as a joke because he's like, he's
Your wife can just throw all that stuff out that we sent you as well because you don't need a supply of Twizzlers, but you know what? Hey, it's fine. It's all right. I know she's a nutrition lady. It's okay, but you got to be healthy.
Chris, I'm going to ask a question.
Yeah.
How did you, or what was that moment that made you realize the ramen was attached to a negative mindset of
yeah.
scarcity?
Well, it was years after that. You don't realize. I didn't realize it in the moment, but as I looked back, as I reflected on that time, because I believe the phrase that you will always move in the direction of your dominant thoughts, and as I think back about my dominant thoughts during that time period, it's I'm going to lose this. I'm not going to be able to recover this. I'm going to have to give this up. I just need to not spend anything. I need to hold on to all those scarcity thoughts that come to mind. That's the direction that I moved in. And when I made that choice to not eat the way that we continue to want to eat, but hey, I'm going to go to this and cling to this because this is the survival that I knew. Well, then looking back on that, going, that was just a scarcity mindset. That was just a lack of abundance thinking that let me go into that direction, and I don't want it. I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize it, like you said. It's kind of like you can't see the forest you can't see the trees from the forest
Yeah.
mindset or thinking. You don't, you go through those struggles, you go through those challenges. There's always the blessing on the backside of it. You
Yeah.
just can't see it until you're already through it. And as
Yeah.
you said, I know John's talked about this, Maxwell has, of, the best success is evaluated
That's
success.
correct.
And the same thing on failures. Like, you're just going to repeat, because trust me, you
Right.
talked about repeating. We have repeated cycles, and it's probably more my fault in our relationship. I'm the stubborn one. That's okay. Missouri's the mule state, right? So I'm the
Right.
mule that like just it's so stubborn in me. I guess I don't know.
Right.
Go.
Well, I'm not from Missouri, so
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Let's go. I like
Okay.
the next. This is a good
So
one.
how did you integrate your faith into your leadership, especially in the corporate and business world,
Yeah.
where it's not always welcome?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know for John Maxwell's corporation, it's very different, night and day different. So can you speak to times before then?
Yeah. So before then, I really kind of shifted many, many years ago when I began to learn John Maxwell principles. That's what really began to help me get promoted on the job. But there was also something that shifted in me during that time period as well too, when I realized that hey, I wasn't called to be a pastor per se behind a pulpit teaching every single week. I was called to be inside the marketplace, so I saw myself as a marketplace minister. And so what I began to do was I become very highly intentional inside the workplace to model good leadership, to teach good leadership, to be a good example, to truly add value to people. And what that did was that opened up doors for conversations. And so I could invite them to things from time to time that would be beneficial to them, that would open them up to faith. I could be there, in those times of need when they would, need prayer. They would go through things, but they wouldn't step foot in the church, but they would step into my office. And so when I kind of reshaped my vision of who I was in the marketplace and who I was in the body of Christ and saying, hey, I'm a marketplace minister, now every day that opened up opportunity for me to reach people that, won't step foot into a church. The same thing applies today. Yes, do I teach at and speak at churches? Yes, I do. But the primarily my work is done in business setting, entrepreneur settings, and I get people all the time. I can tell there's something different about you. Are you a person of faith? And that door opens up. And so for me, it's just really kind of reshaping and understanding where you're called to serve people.
Right.
I love that, and that is kind of piggybacking off of that. It's kind of goes in my mind of the people are in church on Sundays,
Yeah.
and they check the box, and it's like, yeah, but there's 6 other days of the week, people.
Right. Yeah.
And encouraging them, our pastor's big on encouraging people. It's like, go be the light.
Right, yeah.
Go encourage people, impact our community,
Right.
this country, this nation, this world.
Yeah.
In those 6 other days, you come here, you should come into church depleted,
Right.
so that you can be refilled in your cup to then go pour out to the people.
Right. Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of business, private sector. I've been in the education space. That separation of church and state kind of a thing rings very true in education.
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot of years, a lot of times I've had to kind of list, you just set to the back.
Yeah.
And early in your career, and now it's like you said, people notice things when you do things differently, when you absorb that mentorship, like I was saying, the sponge earlier.
Right.
But being able to just open up and talk about that, I'm finding more and more of that now in education, that people are hungry for that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And they want to just learn.
Chris, another question that I have for you is, and these are kind of both twofold. What did your faith look like when you were going through the bankruptcy and the DUI you referenced
Yeah.
in Drift to Drive?
Yep.
And did you ever question God in those seasons?
Yeah.
So that's the first question. And the second question is, what role did your relationship with God play in the shifting from the drift to the drive?
Yeah. So in the DUIs in that particular space, that I share about in the book, I couldn't have been any further away from the church. There was no faith at that point in time. Um, in fact, it was probably at that time that I was still being harassed by this lady at work on if I would come to church. I was being harassed. I mean, it was literally like this lady would not leave me alone. She would just say to me every single week, "Hey, Chris, we got this going on at church. Would you like to come?" I would look her square in the eye and say, "Hey, you guys serving Bud Light there this weekend?" She'd say no, and I'd say,
Yeah.
"Well, I'm not going to be there." You know, I'm like,
Yeah.
I was that,
Man.
I was that was the wall that I had up, in this space. But what's the word say? It says that the word will never return void. So when we came to that space of, man, we got to do something different. Like I've got to stop this drinking, and I don't want to do this any longer. My wife was watching Joel Osteen on TV at the time. He gave her life to Christ in our living room, and then she was like, "Hey, we need to go to church somewhere." So we literally pulled out a phone book, and we were looking through the phone book for a church because we were like, "Well, I don't know what type of church to go to. There's this type of church and this type of church," and we're kind of looking through the phone book. And then I remember this lady that was harassing me, and I said, "Well, this lady would always invite me to this church. Why don't we go and check this out?" So we walk into the church. Of course, we slide to the very back pew because this is not our environment. This is not our place. And I don't know about all these people. And I don't know if I really belong here. The pastor gets up behind the pulpit and he says, "This pulpit is John Osteen's pulpit. He was my pastor. This is Joel Osteen's dad's pulpit." And we look at each other like, what are the
Wow.
odds? Because that's the only sermon that we've ever watched. And then now there's this connection here, and we stayed there. We got tied into that church, never stopped going. We got plugged in there. That's where we really began to get into personal growth and development. And that was really the foundation of where I found John Maxwell, where I found so many different incredible speakers to build up. So during that phase, there wasn't really any questioning of God. There was questioning of what does this life look like? Again, in that phase of my life, I was being stripped away. I mean, I had to change and strip and give up who I was and what I was doing at that time. I remember filling out the volunteer application, for the church at that time. And it was, do you cohabitate? Do you smoke? Do you drink? Do you do this? I'm like, I don't know anybody on this planet that doesn't do anything. I'm like, somebody's lying. Somebody's lying to the church. I don't know anybody. you know and so again, a stripping away. And so I didn't question faith at that phase as we were going through. So now we find this foundation. We have given our life to Christ. We're reading, we're learning, we're studying, we're adding value to people. I'm getting promoted on the job. Now I have to give these things up. I don't think I questioned faith so much in that time, but I questioned my purpose in that time. What am I supposed to do? Again, as I was crying that car, I was crying for, I just want a clear picture of where I want to go.
Yeah.
And so, I don't think questioning of faith has ever really been my issue once I got on that side of it. Because before that, I didn't have any recall. I didn't have anything else to know or to question. And so I don't think that I've really ever went through that questioning of faith at this point.
When you gave your life to the Lord
Yeah.
and you started to really immerse yourself into personal growth,
Yeah.
studying the Word, things like that,
Yeah.
what was that time period from when that started to when you started to see kind of the fruit from some of that? Because I think we have some, and the reason I'm asking that, Chris, we have some of our viewers, some of our listeners that we'll hear from, and they're like, "Well, I did this, but nothing happened."
Yeah.
Like we're in that microwave, and I'm
Right.
guilty of this too.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm preaching to myself here, right? But the microwave mentality of society,
Right.
people want that. So I was just kind of curious if you could quantify that when you
Yeah,
first.
I don't know if I can put a time on when did I see a result of faith. I would say that it's immediate, but it's ongoing. You see, faith isn't a slot machine.
Yeah.
It's not a, oh God, pray, give me this, and then all of a sudden, all right, I'm gonna go back to my old ways, and I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. I think because of consistency over time, I began to see different results in my life,
Hmm.
and I really believe that, and some things were instant, some things were instant, and I can tell you, I still to this day, since October of 2001, I haven't had a drop of alcohol. Now, I don't. I have plenty of friends. Everybody around me drinks. That's fine. But for me, I don't
Hmm.
have a reason to go back to it. I'm just like,
Hmm.
God, remove that from me. And I say
Hmm.
that because if I say, okay, well, here's a story where I've seen a result from God in a period of time that was, miraculous. So
Hmm.
when I'm wanting to quit drinking at that time, I began to pray, God, remove the desire for alcohol from my life. Remove the
Hmm.
desire. Okay. This
Mhm.
is what we were praying day in and day out. God, remove the desire from my heart. And
Hmm.
so I would get around alcohol at that time period. I would smell it and I would get nauseous. Like you got
Mm.
to think, I was drinking every day.
Yeah.
And then now to go from drinking every day, so environments that I'm used to being around, and I say, God, remove the desire. And I get around the smell of
Mm.
alcohol.
Love that.
And I mean, I would seize up. It would make me sick, and I would want nothing to do with it. And but that was a removal. That was a miraculous. That was an instant. And again, there's all different things that
Hmm.
we can point to God in. I mean, even with conceiving our children, we were told for three
Yeah.
and a half years we couldn't have children. My goodness, I've got six now. I
Ha!
mean, like, and so that wasn't an instant, but that was 3.5 years of a faith walk that
Hmm.
had to happen, to believe for that. And so to quantify, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I know it's better on the other side.
Well, you beat us. It's not a competition on kids. We only have five. You've got six.
Yeah.
But you were talking about 3.5 years. We were told when we got married. She was told we wouldn't have kids.
At
Right.
19, I was
Wow.
told I would have to pay to have kids.
So we get married, and our 3-year
I'm like,
plan.
well, it might take 3 years for all this birth control to get out of me.
So we're like, oh, well, we're planning trips. And it's like 3.5 months later, we find out we're pregnant. We're like,
Wow.
oh,
Whoa, that was
well,
quick.
now this is where we're going, and
I think I took 6 pregnancy tests because I thought I kept getting a type 1 error.
like again, you're a first time
Oh
parent.
my
You're like, I don't
God.
know, like what
Right.
can you still? I mean, it just scares everybody.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh
'cause you
yeah.
don't. I still there's tendencies where we all still feel like, gosh, I'm still a
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh
what?
yeah.
How am I raising kids?
Right. Yeah.
And so, but I do want to go back. You talked about praying that it would be removed from you. I
Yeah.
mean, we have friends, we have acquaintances that we know that struggle with addictions to different
Yeah.
things. And I think you hit the nail on the head in this episode for sure, to giving people encouragement of
Yeah.
just praying that would be removed
The
from
desire to be
the
removed.
desire
Right.
to be
'Cause
removed
that's the
from us. I
root.
love
That's
that.
the root. That's the root cause.
Yeah.
Root
Yeah.
cause
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
desire. Yeah.
So, talking about you are a father of 6,
Yeah.
how do you help your kids develop their crazy, unbelievable faith
Oh
on their
wow.
own?
Yeah, and that's the thing that you pray for is that they find it on their own. We create the environment for them, by placing them there on a weekly basis. And, you see different versions of them embracing it. I think about, my middle child, I would say middle, the single child, the only one that came out of my wife alone. One of the things that he will always do before any baseball games, he'll come to me and say, Dad, can you pray for me before the baseball game? So it's like these little things that exercising out the faith. For my older kids, the triplets, now they're a little bit more independent. And, you'll see them at times reading their Bible or whatever the case may be. But then, hey, they're straight up teenagers. So, I've got one, I catch him on Sunday. I mean, this guy is, he's just all the way down. I mean, he just laid out. I'm going just like, wow. I mean, and at
He's
first I was
immersion, like he's just
right. Fully
hoping
immersed. He's
osmosis
like, he's
comes in.
like, fine. I'm listening. I'm just listening with my eyes closed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I consume it better this way. And so, it hurt my heart for several weeks. Where I'm like, gosh. I'm like, well, I'd rather have him laid out here
Yeah.
than to be laid out in some house, some alley,
Yeah.
some car, you
Yep.
know, underneath the influence of something else. And so, as a parent, I had to get over that a little bit. And so now we just catch them from a distance, and
So you're saying
so
you
be
pick
it.
your battles?
Right.
So
Something.
many people are like, I don't know how you have 5 kids. I don't have the capacity for that. I'm like,
Right.
your capacity grows.
Right.
Your capacity
That's
grows,
correct.
right?
It does.
But then you learn, is that really a battle I really want to pick right
Right.
here, right now,
Right.
in this
Right.
environment,
Oh yeah.
Right.
or even at all?
Right.
No.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, so I have one last very important
Okay.
question that I
Yeah.
think will definitely have some impact on some people.
Okay.
There's someone listening who's drifting in their faith or in their purpose.
Yeah.
What would you say to them right now?
Yeah. The first words that come to my mind are the words that I listen to every single day inside of a car ride, listening to a cassette. And the words were, God will never leave you nor forsake you. And those are words that I would hear over and over and over again. And that's just really what I put down inside of myself, is that, he will never leave us nor forsake us. If you think about any time that God has left you. Okay, we can go how many days, how many hours, God's never left you. He's not going to do it now. And so that would be the encouragement that I would give, that if you're in a drift, if you're in a tough place, if things are difficult right now, it's okay. God's beside you. He's with you. He's never left you, nor will he ever forsake you.
That is amazing. I'm going to piggyback with that. I was praying just the other afternoon, a couple of days ago, and standing there in the kitchen, and I'm holding the Maxwell Bible, okay? And I said, okay, God, speak to me. And I was like, what verse do I read? Jeremiah comes to mind. I was like, okay, well, what am I reading the whole chapter? Jeremiah 29:12. And I open it up, and it's speaking about God, you will pray to me, and I will hear you. And I'm like, God wink.
Right.
What a God wink moment.
Yeah.
And like you said, we're not going to be the first that he forsakes.
Right.
You're not his first mistake?
I thought for a while, Chris, that we were. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a struggle. I was on the struggle bus for a while, but
About a year, folks. About a year.
We had to
you
quantify it.
I can quantify that because I lived the year out with it.
That was 2020. It's okay. It's
Oh
okay.
my
It's
God.
fine. It's no big deal. No, but I definitely, I appreciate that. That to our viewers, like there's a legitimate struggle that people go through.
Yeah.
Is God hearing me? Has he forgotten about me? And just confessing those things, declaring those things, that the scriptures in the Bible say these things.
Right.
There's not a version 2.0 of that book coming out.
Right. Correct.
It is done. It is written. And until the Creator comes back himself,
Right. Yeah.
we are to be that beacon of hope and light. And Chris, you have been a light in this episode for us.
Yes.
You've been a light for our podcast and to our community. I pray that it impacts your viewers, your listeners, the people that follow you. We will definitely tag this. Now, you did mention a comment. We're going to have to go into the show notes and add, because there's younger people listening to this, watching it. They're like, the yellow pages?
Right.
No, he
Like,
just
so-
said the phone book.
Or the phone book, excuse me. Yeah, the phone book. I'm going to have to put a subgroup in there, like, what is that? So people
What is
can
a
go
phone
Google
book?
what it
So they
is.
can figure out that the yellow pages was the business portion of the phone book, and the white pages were all the people.
Residential. Right.
Yeah. But Chris, I appreciate it. Have you got a book, a copy of that beside you that you could
I
show
do.
up for those that are watching this?
Always. There we go.
There it is.
Brand new.
Okay.
There we go.
And give us
Hardcover
the
there.
details on this, Chris. When does it
Yeah,
come out?
this comes out September 2nd, and there'll be audio book. There'll be the Kindle version as well too. But get yourself a hard copy. Foreword done by John Maxwell, endorsed by Eric Thomas, Mark Cole, Valerie Burton, Jeff Henderson. Really is just a good book that's going to give you some practical application for your life. So it really is a guide and a reference for you to come back to work through the different phases of life that you're going through.
Yeah.
The multiple steps you lay out, I think there's 7.
Yeah.
Am I correct? I think the 7 steps you put in there, it is an awesome handbook
Yeah.
for those that have been successful in their professional careers
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, but there's always more.
Right.
It don't just get comfortable. And so Chris, thank you for coming on with us. Thank you for writing the book.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
And we are going to, again, we will push that out as much as we can from our rooftops, shout it as loud as we can.
I appreciate that greatly.
Chris, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Anything in closing from you, babe?
No, I just really appreciate your time. I appreciate your humor in your walk. I know probably during those times, it was not humorous at all.
Right. Sure.
You probably found no humor in that at all. But I just think that there's healing that happens when we can look back and laugh at seasons
Yeah.
of our lives, and we can find humor in the pain,
Right.
and that helps just to relieve some of the pain. And
Yeah.
so I appreciate you being authentic
Yeah.
and vulnerable with us, and I appreciate your humor and your ability to laugh through it.
Yeah.
So
One piece I'll close with. You mentioned in the book when those red and blue lights come on. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I like hear a siren and you have that. Your heart palpitates. Like I'm sure it's a shortening of people's lives all over when they hear the sirens or see those red and blue
they're
lights.
getting gray hair.
It is happening. But I appreciate you being authentic,
Yeah.
Chris, in the book, and obviously this interaction with you. We're very blessed, and so thank you for the time today,
You got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Chris. We appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Will do.